Once upon a time, long, long ago, there was a rich man in Connaught who had 3 daughters, and with his 3 girls he was walking one day in his park when a magpie flew up and lit on his toe. He wished it away, and they went on. In another minute, the magpie flew up again and lit, this time, on the gentleman's shoulder. The gentleman brushed it away and they travelled on. Next minute the magpie was back and lit on his other shoulder. "What are you and what do you want anyhow?" asked the angry gentleman. Then the magpie spoke and said it was really not a magpie but a prince under enchantment. He thanked the gentleman with all his heart for speaking to him, for he said the spell he was under didn't let him speak till he was spoken to. "Could I do anything," says the gentleman, "to lift the enchantment off you?" "You can," says the magpie, "if you give me one of your daughters in marriage." "Well, I should like to help you," says the gentleman, "but at the same time I couldn't think of forcing any of my daughters to marry a magpie unless she wanted to do it herself." Then the father put it to his 3 daughters if any of them should care to become further acquainted with the magpie and to marry him if they really loved him. The eldest girl scoffed at this and the second girl sniggered at it, but Una, the youngest, who had a tender heart, said it was a pity for the poor magpie and that she would like to make his acquaintance. That evening there was a tap on their parlour window, and when the father opened it, in flew the magpie to visit Una. The father took his 2 elder daughters with him and left the room, but the elder girls, jeering about the young sister being courted by a magpie, went back to look through the keyhole, and there, lo and behold they saw sitting with their sister, and wooing her, the handsomest young man they had ever beheld in their lives. For 3 evenings, this same happening was repeated, and then the elder girls said to their father that they would like to wed the magpie, but the magpie, when he heard of it, wouldn't have anything to do with them. He said the youngest was his choice, and he wouldn't have the others, not with their weight in gold thrown in. It was at last settled that the marriage was to take place, and on the morning when they were to be married, the magpie, at the marrying, took the form of the handsome young man that he really was. And all who were there agreed that any man half as noble or handsome or beautiful they had never seen in their lives before. After the wedding, he was to take his bride to his castle in his own country. Then the eldest sister said she would surely like to go with them and see his wonderful castle. The young prince objected, saying it was dangerous to him for anyone to come there, by reason that the castle was filled with rare and rich and beautiful things which nearly everybody would covet, and although the enchantment was now lifted off him, it would fall on him again, and he would be changed into a magpie for 7 years more if anyone ever desired anything seen in his castle. This made the eldest girl 10 times more anxious to see these rare and beautiful things, and she couldn't be put off now at all. She promised and pledged herself not to desire anything else if he would only let her come and stay with them for 1 month. Then Una, who was tender-hearted and loved her sisters though they didn't deserve it, joined in begging of her husband that her sister might come, and he couldn't have the heart to refuse her. All 3 of them then set out and journeyed far and long till they came to the prince's castle, and certainly it was the most beautiful mansion that any of them had ever dreamt of. But beautiful as it was outside, it was far more beautiful within, and the wonderful and rare things that were there to be seen of all kinds astonished both the young bride and her sister. These things were so very, very rare and wonderful that the eldest sister would certainly have liked to covet them, but she held herself in. Then one day at last, a golden plate of the most beautiful workmanship she ever beheld was passed with the cake. "Oh," she says, forgetting herself, "how I wish that that golden plate was mine." Then the poor prince gave a cry, and when they looked at him, there he was changed back into a magpie. And at the sight of him, the eldest sister ran from the castle and fled for home. Says the magpie to his bride, "For 7 years, now in this shape, I must wander the world." "And dear prince," says the sobbing bride, "what am I to do during those long 7 years?" "You," says he, "will travel a day's journey from here westward, till you come to the mansion of the White Lady. You will hire as a laundress with her for the 7 years, because there are no men," he says, "in or near that mansion. That's why I want a beautiful lady like you to be there. Take no money," he says, "from that lady, for although you work, you mustn't be a servant. Into a drawer in your bureau, let her put your wages every month, and then let it lie untouched, so that she will get it all again after you are gone. But you mustn't explain anything to her, for I don't want her to know our secret. And," he says, "don't satisfy anybody's curiosity about it either. This feather I take out of my wing," he says, "I'll fix in your side here under your arm where it will grow. It will give you magic powers so that anything at all you wish by the feather of your wing to be done will instantly be done." Then he kissed his bride and flew away for 7 years. Una set out next morning and travelled far and far, until at last she came to the mansion of the White Lady, and with her she hired for 7 years as laundress. The White Lady put Una into the laundry where there were 100 tubs full of clothes to be washed, and there left her, for she was bent on killing Una. Una says, "By the feather of my wing, I wish you were washed." And that instant, the clothes were washed. Then she says, "By the feather o' my wing, I wish you were hung out and dried." And that instant, all the clothes were hung out and dried. "By the feather o' my wing," she says then, "I wish you were brought in and sprinkled." And that instant, all the clothes were brought in and sprinkled. "By the feather o' my wing," she says, "I wish you were starched and ironed." And that instant all the clothes were starched and ironed. "By the feather of my wing," she says, "I wish you were dried and folded and put away in the clothes closets." And that instant, lo and behold you, all the clothes were dried and folded and put away in the clothes closets. When the White Lady came to the laundry in the evening and found this, she was astonished. She got afraid, for she said they surely had a fairy in the house. She told all her other servants about the new girl and what she had done, and they all began to wonder what her power could be and where it lay. Says the waitress, "I'll soon find out all about it." And that evening she went to the laundress, taking with her a bottle of wine, and sat down to chat and treat her to the wine. Una, pretending to drink the wine, threw it behind her. When the waitress thought that Una had taken plenty of the wine, and her tongue must surely be loosed, she asked her in what her great gift lay. Una told her that her gift lay in the little red curls that hung on each side of her head. That night, in the dead of night, when she thought Una was asleep, the waitress got out of bed and, taking a pair of scissors, went in her nightdress into Una's room and bent over her to crop the curls so that her gift might be gone. But Una, who had been expecting this and was lying in pretense of sleep, says to herself, "I wish by the feather of my wing you were doing your duty, waitress." And that instant, lo and behold, the waitress in her nightdress began laying tables all over the castle, and went on at that for the whole night. When day broke, the White Lady came down to breakfast, and all the servants came up, and they found the waitress in her nightdress, laying the tables in the dining room and in the drawing room and in the parlour, and everywhere in the castle that she could lay hands upon a table and a tablecloth and knives and forks. Such a ridiculous sight they never saw in their lives before. The White Lady was in a terrible rage, but all the other servants were laughing at the crazy figure the waitress made. When Una thought it had gone on long enough, she says to herself, "By the feather of my wing, I wish this would stop." And that instant the waitress stopped laying tables, and when she saw how she was dressed and what she was doing, and saw the people laughing at her and her mistress black with rage, she was all ashamed and ran off to her room, where she cried fit to break her heart. Now, when the servants that evening talked over the whole affair in the servants' hall, The lady who was the gardener said that the waitress had made a fool of herself because she hadn't enough sense to know how to get around the laundress. She said she would show them what a clever woman could do. So that evening, with a bottle of wine, the lady gardener went to Una's room to treat her and chat with her. And when she thought Una had drunk plenty of wine to loosen her tongue, though Una had only thrown the wine behind her, the lady gardener asked her where her wonderful gift lay. Una said to her that it lay in the ribbon that she had tied around her wrist. In the dead of the night, that night when she thought Una was asleep, the lady gardener got out of bed and, taking a pair of scissors, went tippy-toes to Una's room and stooped to cut off the ribbon around her wrist. Says Una, who was only pretending sleep, "I wish by the feather of my wing you were doing your duty, lady gardener." And instantly there was the lady gardener in her nightdress, on the lawn in front of the castle, digging it and raking it and breaking it, and sowing the seeds of all flowers and plants and shrubs that ever were known. And all the night long she went on turning the lawn into a garden, till, when the household got up in the morning, and the white lady and her servants looked out of the windows, they saw such a sight as they had never seen in their lives before. All kinds of flowers and fruits and shrubs and trees that ever were had been springing up during the night upon the lawn, and the birds were singing on the tops of the bushes, and the bees were humming, and the flowers were blooming, and the lady gardener, in her nightdress with a watering pot in her hand, was going through the lawn, watering the flowers, just as if there was nothing at all odd in her behaviour. The white lady grew black in the face with rage, and the servants, at the ridiculousness of the thing, laughed till they dropped down. When Una thought it had gone on long enough, she says, "I wish, by the feather of my wing, this was stopped." And that instant the lady gardener realised what she was doing, and the appearance she was making, and all ashamed she dropped the watering pot, and ran off to her room, where she sobbed and cried till night. That night when the servants were sitting in the servants' hall, the lady coachman said that the waitress and the lady gardener had very little sense and didn't know how to get around the laundress. She said she would show them how to do it. So she took a bottle of wine and went to the laundress's quarters and sat down to chat and treat the laundress. When she thought Una's tongue was loosened enough by the wine, which Una had really thrown over her shoulder, she asked her where her gift lay. "It lies," says Una, "in this earring which you see in my left ear." So in the dead of the night, that night, when she thought Una was sleeping, the lady coachman, getting out of bed, went to Una's room and stooped down to take the earring from her ear. But Una, who was only pretending sleep, says, "I wish, by the feather of my wing, you were doing your duty, lady coachman." And that instant, lo and behold you, the lady coachman in her nightdress was out in the stables, harnessing her horses and tackling them to the carriage, and then, carrying out by force her mistress from her bed, she put her in the carriage, dressed only in her nightdress too, and herself getting on the box, she began driving her horse and carriage at top gallop round the house and round the house till morning. All the servants, awakened by the noise, had come to the windows and were gazing out, in a mixture of fright and fun, at the foolish sight that was to be seen. When broad daylight came, and Una thought this had gone far enough, she wished by the feather of her wing it was stopped, and that instant the lady coachman stopped driving, and realising her foolishness, she jumped off the box and shamefacedly ran into the house and to her room, leaving her mistress black with rage to come out of the carriage in her nightdress and make her way to her room as best she might. Now the white lady was in a terrible state of anger and didn't know what to do, but she was afraid to touch Una or to say a hard word to her, not knowing what Una might do to her in return. She wished and wished, however, that Una's 7 years were up. Una, from that time on, was let alone, and no one tried to pry into her secret. Then she was content, and she did her work and did it well and remained in peace. When it neared the day on which her 7 years' term would be up, the white lady, calling together all the other servants, ordered them to arm themselves with sticks, and the minute the laundress's time was up and she was going to leave the house, they were to fall on her and trounce and beat her till they had left her dead. Accordingly, on the day on which the 7 years was up, Una got ready to leave. She first looked from her window and to her joy saw coming toward the castle, a great way off, her husband, the noble young man in all his beauty and all his pride. Down she started to go to meet him. But when she got as far as the door of the castle, all the servants, armed with sticks and commanded by the White Lady, fell on her to trounce and beat her till she'd be dead. "I wish by the feather of my wing," says Una, says she, "that you would be beating one another, and all of you beating the White Lady." And that instant, lo and behold you, the servants in a great melee began beating and whacking and slashing and thrashing one another, and all of them beating and bruising and trouncing and whacking the White Lady. And such a mix-up fight was never seen in all the world before, nor never again in all the world since. The prince, arriving, took Una in his arms and kissed her over and over and over again. Then he asked her what was happening here, and she told him. "Now," he says he, "I think they have punished one another and punished the White Lady long enough, and maybe stopped." So, by the feather of her wing, stopping them, Una and her husband mounted 2 white horses and rode off. As they rode along, the prince told Una that it was by this same White Lady's evil power he had lain under enchantment. That was why he had left her in the White Lady's castle, so that the White Lady might be punished for her evil doings. He considered now that she had been punished enough, and so she had. As for him, his enchantment was now ended forever. They returned to their own castle, and happy indeed was their homecoming. They gave to all comers a feast that lasted for 9 months, and the last month was more enjoyable than the first. Then they settled down to be happy and do good to all around them, and they lived long and happy ever after.